So how will the summoner work exactly in Doom Eternal? That is, of course, if it does return and we aren't just jumping to conclusions based off of a teaser of a trailer's box art, which is kind of weird by itself. I mean, at least to me anyways. That's like me going out in public and a random chick knowing my name and all of a sudden I feel like we're dating. Desperation to the max. But I'm sure everybody and their mother has beaten the subject to death as far as what the blue aura is around this tyrant, whether if this really is a summoner or not, what this maker looking enemy is. And what I wanted to do today was look at all this stuff from more of a gameplay perspective. I mean, I'm sure you can make some wonderful assumptions just based off of knowing the lore, but I think it'd be better to prioritize or look at how this stuff would fit into Doom Eternal's combat loop, as that is obviously the thing that's front and center, and I forgot the damn lore. I gotta brush up on it. But I digress. To kick this video off, I want to focus on the two new demons separately, and then we're going to talk about the blue aura subsequently after those two things, and then at the end, all three and how they could work in one specific arena. I also want to say, for simplicity's sake, obviously, I'm going to just assume that this translucent enemy on the box art is in fact the summoner, and I'm not even going to consider if it's anything else. But with those ground rules laid, let's kick this off with how the summoner worked back in Doom 2016. It was essentially that game's version of the Archvile, where, as its name implies, this bastard was responsible for conjuring up reinforcements in the heat of battle. I, for the life of me, can't remember if they conjured up anything more dangerous than like imps or possessed or non-possessed, but either way, their purpose was to generate enemy reinforcements in the heat of battle. They were mobile, just like the Archvile, capable of teleporting, and they were actually 2 to 3 times faster than the Archvile is in Doom Eternal, because this guy doesn't move at all. But just knowing that the summoner essentially worked the same way that the Archvile works in Doom Eternal, it generates the question of, are they really going to introduce a quote-unquote new demon with the same characteristics as a demon that's already existing in the game? Well, no matter what, the summoner is 100% gonna have to have a drastic redesign for a number of reasons. One, the amount of mobility that we have as a slayer is on a whole nother level in comparison in Doom 2016. Not to mention, we have the whole weak point system, and considering that you can already find ways to cheese the summoner in Doom 2016, if they don't make them at least a little bit more challenging, especially in comparison to the Archvile, if they don't end up doing that, it's gonna make the summoner be an immensely disappointing enemy, especially for one that's quote-unquote new. Unless the maker's the real new one, and then they just added this in for a little bit of fan service and to spice things up a little bit more. But for the sake of playing devil's advocate, let's say they introduce the summoner and it does almost the exact same thing as the Archvile, with the only real difference between the two, the summoner is much more mobile and isn't really capable of conjuring up things like Mancubus or Revenants or Pinkies. They're just capable of doing like soldiers, imps, but they generate them twice as fast, where the Archvile is just kind of there and you gotta leave him alone in order for him to resurrect all these demons. The summoner can do it 2 to 3 times faster, and maybe the fact that it's blue and translucent, that could be a sign that it's invulnerable to the ice grenade, which I think would be a great decision because a lot of people like to cheese the Archvile with the ice grenade, and that could be where it really shines. It's not so much a threat, it's more of a nuisance. It's extremely fast, you can't stop it with an ice grenade, and it's extremely mobile. I mean, you could say they're still kind of similar to each other, but I mean, in a way, isn't the Pain Elemental and Cacodemon almost exactly the same too? They're both flying enemies, easy targets. I mean, one of them is deadlier from far away, a little tankier, while the other one is easier to stagger and much deadlier up close. I would liken the Archvile and the Summoner to the Pain Elemental and the Cacodemon. I mean, in areas where you're faced with both of them, it doesn't throw off the combat loop at all. And that could be how these two work, with the Archvile being a little tankier, a little sly in where he's hiding while he's conjuring up demons, while the Summoner is just constantly moving around. And you can pinpoint where exactly the Summoner is based off that little red trail from their teleportation. Or I guess in Doom Eternal's case, a blue trail. I mean, if they're fast enough and easy to kill, I don't think that would be that disappointing, because they might be a bitch to track down, or at least get in a position where they just stop moving, and then again, you can't use an ice grenade, so you gotta be a little crafty with how you kill them really quickly. And with the Summoner working like this, having an Archvile in the same arena would still work. It can buff the Summoner to now make the Summoner capable of spawning in stronger demons, or demons that the Archvile himself can't even spawn in. Or that could be the case with both of them being alive, essentially feeding into each other. I mean, on second thought, that one sounds a little stupid. But just having the Summoner be basically an Archvile, but twice as fast, and potentially could be the one granting that blue aura, which essentially a lot of people are saying could be a health buff, that would work. I mean, a faster mobile Archvile that's not capable of really spawning in any other demons besides a fodder demon is capable of dodging ice grenades, moves incredibly fast, and is now granting demons 50% extra health. Using the situation with the Tyrant as an example, because you know he's there in the trailer, this now creates a little bit of a problem. You have a demon that is incredibly fast and fluid. He can't be really stopped with anything. You have to find a way to pinpoint him with a perfect shot or get him to stop moving somehow before taking on the Tyrant, which is already a little bit of a bullet sponge. So now you're presented with this problem. Do I go after the Tyrant, where I'm gonna have to expend more ammo than I normally would, which usually is quite a bit, or should I ice bomb the Tyrant and try to prioritize this summoner that is buffing all the demon's health around me? Throw an Archvile into the mix, and now it's, well, do I go after the demon that's buffing everybody's health, or do I go after the demon that's buffing all the demon's aggression? Sounds like id Software is really leaning towards the direction of trying to challenge really good slayers, and I think having a fluid demon that just grants this insane health buff would be a decent way to do it. It'll definitely piss off a lot of people though. I know some people are still upset with ammo reserves and how hard Eternal is as far as ammunition scarcity goes, and then being forced to play a certain way because now you got to prioritize the Archvile or the Summoner, and whatever, it is what it is. But having to think on your feet and decide what enemy to prioritize, whether it being an agile demon granting health buffs or the Archvile increasing demon aggression, while having to deal with a Tyrant that might be affected by both or just one of these two effects, would complement the gameplay and I'd say align with id Software's vision of trying to challenge more skillful slayers. But that's of course just my theory on it. What do you think? How do you think this new demon would play in the game, and whether if you believe it's the Summoner or not? There's been a lot of interesting theories out there, and I'm curious to hear what you think about all of this. But on that note, let's move on to the new Maker looking enemy. Now, we don't face Maker drones, or at least none that I recall anyway, outside the level of Urdak. So going based off of that, obviously, and the trailer as well, I'd say it's a safe assumption to say at least a decent amount of this DLC should take place on Urdak. What I'm getting at here is that makes it a good guess to also say that this enemy may be tied to levels that only take place on Urdak, whether this demon is on the level of the Marauder or Doom Hunter, essentially a Maker version of a mini boss. I wouldn't expect it to be that common or have a stronger presence than, let's say, the Marauder. Something I want to point out in this teaser we got is at the time where the buff Tyrant is standing in this area of Urdak, it looks like the exact same spot as the new Maker enemy pops up. The point of reference I'm basing this off of is the walkway where the arch pillars are, the red leaves, the door in the background, and basically the overall building design does look to be the exact same. I'm guessing in this gameplay either one of two things happened. Now this one is completely just to mess around. I don't really believe in this one, but first idea is that the gameplay was potentially played backwards, and the new Maker enemy pops up first, and it's not until after dispatching it and whatever supporting demons spawn with it that the Tyrant is spawned in with later waves of enemies. The only reason it would make sense for them to play backwards like this is because the door in the background when the Maker enemy pops up is actually red, whereas when the Tyrant pops up, it's green. But just going based off of that would ignore the fact that the Slayer is killing the Dread Knight, plus his position is completely different between these two scenes. With the Tyrant scene, it looks like the Slayer just got into that area, while when the Maker pops up, the Slayer had just sliced the throat of a Dread Knight and is a little closer to the door. And if that's the case, with it being a spawn of a later wave, how will it perform in combat? Well, for starters, they can obviously fly. It also looks like they may have a transformation, potentially making them deadlier in combat once that transformation is allowed to happen. To balance that out, when they're still and going through said transformation may be the right time to strike. This could also be their way of just being introduced into the arena and has no actual impact on the combat loop whatsoever. Besides from flying, we also see they have a staff, and if they are Maker versions of Marauders, we may see things like a potential knockback from that transformation blast. And either the spear that they're wielding is capable of firing a beam similar to the Hellraiser from Doom 2016, or being able to throw the spear in a similar fashion to how the Marauder can do so with his axe. Or maybe both, with the initial stage being able to throw it like an axe, and after that transformation, and now as a second attack allowing it to shoot a concentrated beam. Maybe even moving a tad bit faster, giving you that extra incentive to kill it before that transformation process. I mean, this one I'm honestly kind of the most clueless about. I think this one can really be anybody's guess, but I am expecting it to be a little bit of a mini boss, while the Summoner is going to be a deadlier support type of demon where you gotta prioritize him even though it itself isn't exactly a threat, it makes everything else that much harder. And as far as that blue aura goes, I'm sold on it being a health buff. It would just make sense to the combat loop, and then if you want to look at health in the game in general from battle mode, you know, healing zones are blue, health pickups as a Slayer are blue. It just makes sense for this to be that type of effect. The question really is it environmental based? Are we gonna have to find something similar to a buff totem, only now it's gonna be providing health instead of aggression? Or is this actually an attribute granted by the summoner? And if it is, it goes back to an arena fight now splitting your attention between an aggressive boosting Archvile or a health boosting summoner. And once at least the Archvile is dealt with, the next major demon spawns in, with that being the new maker as part of the final wave of demons. But what do you think? Am I just some delusional kid sitting in a dark room that makes absolutely no sense? Do you agree with me at least a little bit? Do you disagree? You guys kicking up your own theories? Let's talk. You know, I try to be as active as humanly possible in the comments. I don't answer every single person, but I try to whenever I get a chance. If you guys are new to the channel, stuck around this long, I want to take the time to thank you. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. And if you haven't joined the Discord yet, link to that is down in the description. It's perfect for finding people just to chat or set up some games with, regardless if it's Doom Eternal or whatever your platform of choice is. It's been growing steadily, and if you guys have joined, thank you. You know, it's been nice talking to you over these past couple days. But that's gonna do it for me here today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys all later.